네, 안녕하세요. 에브모스에서 현재 풀스택 팀을 리드하는 프로덕트 매니저 김수환이고요. 제가 에브모스에 들어온 지 한 3개월 반 정도 되거든요. 네, 그래서 제가 들어왔을 때 팀들이 이렇게 너무 좋아하는 거예요. 이렇게 한국 사람도 들어오고 이렇게 되면 이제 한국에 있는 팀들도 너무 다양하고 아주 탤런티드한 웹3 커뮤니티가 이제 좀 뜬다고 이렇게 한국 사람들이랑 한국말도 하고 통역도 하고 이런 한국의 이벤트에 오면 이렇게 한국어로 이렇게 프레젠테이션 하는 것도 하면 얼마나 좋겠냐고 이렇게 하는데 이제 들으시다시피 제가 한국말을 좀 잘 못해요. 그리고 못하면서도 경상도 사투리가 너무너무 세요. 예. 그래서 제가 그 어렸을 때 한국에서 나와가지고 한국말은 조금은 하는데 근데 뭐 이런 프레젠테이션 할 때 이렇게 한국말로 이렇게 메인이 되는 게 아니고 영어로 먼저 메인을 하고 뭐 한국말을 이렇게 조금씩 이렇게 넣어서 제가 프레젠테이션을 해볼게요. 예, 그래서 이제 다음에 만날 기회가 되면 제가 좀 더 준비되어 있는 한국말로 이렇게 좀 제가 준비를 해놓을게요. 그래서 그래도 제가 한국에 와가지고 한국 사람으로서 한국말로 이렇게 인사는 드리고 싶어서 제가 좀 열심히 좀 준비를 했어요. 한국말을. 그래서 그냥 그럼 영어로 그냥 진행을 할게요. Okay, cool. So hi everyone. I'm Swan. Sorry for that. I'm Swan. I wanted to do a quick intro in my broken Korean to my Korean-speaking community. Yeah, so anyway, so I am a product manager at Evmos for the full stack team. Our team works on working on basically building out the best user experience for everyone using Evmos, everyone who can interact with Evmos, more specifically our dashboard, but not limited to it, because as you use your tokens, like your user experience is in and out of web applications, right? So today, I will be giving you an overview of EVM extensions, what they are, what they mean to you as developers, what they mean to end users, and also review some use cases that we have in mind that we've already implemented so that you can also see how you can put it into practice. But before that, let me actually get into Evmos itself for those who need a reminder or for those who need a re-reminder. Evmos, if you don't know, Evmos is a layer 1 blockchain that basically combines the best of both worlds of the EVM and Cosmos. So the EVM allowing for composability, allowing for programmability, it basically helps to ensure an agnostic way of building out and writing out applications and getting them to interact with each other. Cosmos allowing you to have sovereignty, so like sovereign chains, governance processes, etc. Most, if not majority of chains on Cosmos are on the proof of stake consensus mechanism, and that basically helps with the scalability and the interoperability of layer 1 blockchains on Cosmos. 네, I'm gonna like fill in some stuff with Korean as well, so bear with me. 에브모스는 EVM이랑 코스모스의 합친 조합이에요. EVM은 그 programmability, smart contract execution 이렇게 그런 힘도 있고 코스모스는 약간 it's like sovereign chains, sovereignty가 있으니까 one chain마다 그런 functionality 다 이렇게 있는 힘이 있는 그런 이코시스템이잖아요. 그래서 그거를 합치면 아주 큰, 아주 powerful한 조합이 되겠죠. 그게 에브모스의 비전이고 그리고 EVM extension으로 그거를 좀 더 비전을 좀 더 크게 보는 거예요. Cool. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, so basically how this all ties together with EVM extensions is that EVM extensions bring a lot more optimization to these worlds and allow both worlds to tap into each other's ecosystems by leveraging the interoperability of Cosmos and the programmability of the EVM. That was a lot of buzzwords and a lot of hot and fancy words in that one sentence, so let's try to break it down together. But first, let's actually understand the problems that we're tackling in the first place with EVM extensions. So the first problem is onboarding end users is really, really hard. Like if you think about it, with every chain comes with its own token, its own features, its own functionalities, its own like different on-ramps, etc. So for those who are not crypto native, like even myself, just like not too long ago, it's actually really hard to know where to even start, like where to even like look at, what to even learn. And once you even get started, like if you're on a chain and you start getting onboarded onto the different features, functionalities, the different apps on it, it's not like you can actually transfer that knowledge very easily to a different chain. So you'd have to onboard again separately. Like I'm pretty sure when you started getting into it, like you know this pain, I definitely know this pain. It's super unscalable, and it's one of the bigger problems that exists within the Web3 world relative to Web2. So what we see at Evmos is we see a world where you just need to onboard once, and you don't need to keep onboarding separately, and you onboard once and then still get to interact with the other dApps, with any kind of apps, irrespective of which chain you even started from. So we want to tell our users like, hey, come to Evmos, get started here, have access to everything in the Cosmos ecosystem in one single seamless user journey without really leaving where you started or even leaving where you're really the most familiar with. Cool. So the second problem is currently a lot of applications are cross-chain, like they're not multi-chain. So previously I just talked about how end users need to onboard separately multiple times, but now you as developers, imagine you having to deploy your application like multiple times to multiple chains. It's not just like, it doesn't end after deploying to one chain. You have to deploy your application to all the other different chains out there in order for you to also get more users using it. So like, this not only puts more work on you, and like it puts a lot of work and overhead on your deployment, but it also prevents your ease of access to more users and communities in a very scalable way. So I mean, isn't it like the more sensible thing to literally just deploy once and forget about it and know that like all users have access to your application after just that one deployment? Like it just makes so much more sense. There's no overhead for you. And honestly, why are you building something for so many users when the deployment stuff is preventing you from actually scalably reaching your end users in a scalable way? So how can EVM extensions help? With EVM extensions, we basically want to enable our dApps to be scalable and be powered by the interoperability that already exists in Cosmos. Now remember, the whole spiel here is that we want to leverage the fact that Evmos combines the best of both worlds of the EVM and Cosmos. We've already established that. Without these EVM extensions, you already understand that EVM smart contracts are only confined and restricted to the logic of the Ethereum virtual machine. Yes, smart contracts can talk to other smart contracts on the EVM or even on Evmos, but they're limited to the logic inside the EVM, and they don't have access to any kinds of information, additional data, or even features or functionalities outside of the EVM. So what we see with these EVM extensions is that now these smart contracts can access further core functionality on the Cosmos protocol, such as voting, staking, and now even access to IBC. That allows you to then communicate to other IBC-enabled chains. This is like a very big game changer because this was obviously not possible before. So what we're basically allowing is we're allowing smart contracts on the EVM to directly call the underlying protocol of the Cosmos SDK, while allowing users and developers alike to basically just like stay where you're the most familiar with in Ethereum. So now to kind of clean it up with EVM extensions, now smart contracts can talk to other IBC-enabled chains, and at some point we're also planning for smart contracts to talk to other smart contracts on non-EVM chains. Cool. If I want to like sum this up in Korean a little bit, please bear with me. So 문제들을 두 개 제가 방금 얘기했잖아요. 한 개는 end user. end user가 이렇게 크립토에 별로 모르는 사람의 그 체인에 대해서 배우고 싶으면 한 개 배운다고 10개를 배우는 게 아니잖아요. 한 개 배우면 또 다시 다른 거 배우고 또 다시 다른 거 배우고 이렇게 되면 시간 낭비가 너무 나잖아요. 그래서 그 언보딩을 조금 더 쉽게 우리가 하고 싶어서 이런 EVM extension을 만들었어요. 네. 그리고 똑같지만 좀 비슷한 문제가 그 디벨로퍼도 애플리케이션을 디플로이 할 때 한 군데에서 하면 just one chain deployment. 근데 multiple chain deployment 하면 한 방에 원 체인에 디플로이하는 것보다 10개 할 수 있잖아요. 그러면 유저들도 더 그 리치가 되고 커뮤니티도 리치가 되고 피드백도 올 수 있고 그런 거를 그렇게 like we're trying to make it scalable. We're trying to make it as efficient as possible for both parties, for developers and end users. It's kind of funny that I'm kind of mixing this in both Korean and English, but yeah. Cool. So, okay, I basically went over more of the conceptual part of the presentation. You probably want to understand like how can I actually apply this in an actual use case. So let me talk about the staking index use case. So essentially, you can optimize staking with these EVM extensions with, for example, indexers. Maybe you can set up indexers that automatically redelegate your tokens to according to your preferences and your criteria. Like for example, maybe you care about validators who are spread across multiple different regions, or maybe one of your criteria is you really, really are conscious about how validators are practicing certain eco-friendly practices, what have you. It's really up to you. Another use case here is you could have staking managers manage your staking position, or you can even run and deploy liquid staking derivatives by accessing the staking functionality that we already provide in our EVM extension modules for staking, which I will actually show you before the end of the presentation. Cool. So I know we're at ETH Seoul, but also I know a lot of you are interested in IBC-enabled use cases. So this is a really exciting one. It's liquid staking outposts. So if you don't know, Stride is a liquid staking zone. It basically allows users to send FMOs to Stride, and the user can do a liquid staking transaction and receive the liquid stake tokens back, and then you would do what you want with it. But as you can imagine, this takes a lot of different multiple steps. So again, for someone who's not as crypto native or someone who's not as patient with all these different steps, it's not really like a pleasant experience. So now what the user can do is with EVM extensions is you stay on the Evmos mainnet, you send an EVM transaction to a smart contract to basically tell the smart contract, like, hey, perform an IBC transfer. Because once Stride receives this, or they have a logic where when they receive an IBC transfer, they know that they have to liquid stake tokens, and then they return it back. So essentially, this is an outpost. It's like when you're interacting with a smart contract on Evmos. So from an end user perspective, as you can imagine, like this actually all happens in the background. Everything that the only thing that the end user is doing is they're submitting an EVM transaction and they're getting an output. To be honest, that's honestly like one of the better UX principles of Web 2 relative to Web 3. We really don't need to make the end users care about anything that happens really under the hood. So with this use case, we actually enable a much better seamless user experience for our end users, and US developers are actually able to implement that. Another really exciting use case is DEX Outposts. So essentially, the idea here is that smart contracts can also use EVM transactions to swap tokens and even provide liquidity, one of our favorite words in this industry, right? So the idea here is that anyone can send an EVM token to an Osmosis Outpost, because that's one of the teams that we're working with here. And then with a memo and instruction that says, hey, can you swap my FMOs for Osmo and return them back? And this would actually really depend on the functionality that Osmosis even provides, but that's the idea that we're kind of running with here. So essentially, the reason why I wanted to bring up this use case is that, yes, we want to bring more optimization with EVM extensions, with core Cosmos functionality, but we also want to enrich the DeFi ecosystem on Evmos. Yeah, like we already know that Evmos allows developers, to tap into interoperability, smart contracts, programmability, composability, all of the bigger words. But also what's really important is that we also want to make sure that liquidity is not fragmented, like it's not siloed to just one chain. We all know about TVL, it's total value locked. And if you think about it, by definition, that means the total number of tokens that's locked into a single chain. There's an inaccuracy behind that statement because liquidity is actually spread throughout the whole ecosystem, across different chains, across different apps. So what we want to do with EVM extensions is that we want to redefine that whole concept of TVL and basically allow dApps to access all this liquidity across all these different apps so that we provide more scalability to our developers. So if you want to take anything out of what I just said here, like honestly, the whole thing here is that with EVM extensions, we want to provide, yes, the optimization to the functionalities that we already have, power that with the interoperability of Cosmos, and make dApps a lot more scalable and also accessible to more end users and make it a lot more efficient and easier to develop by developers. Also, I don't know if you've had any confusion, because I did when I was learning about this, but the difference between an outpost and an EVM extension is that an EVM extension is at its very core, like low-level infra, whereas an outpost is more of like a direct use case that other chains can use to provide those functionalities for their users. Cool. So this is also another exciting project that we're also looking into. So right now, I just talked about onboarding and usability and making sure that like all of our end users and developers are able to onboard quickly, able to use EVMODs better, and like develop dApps a lot more in a scalable way. But once we tackle those issues concerning onboarding and usability, we also want to provide a solution to discoverability. So with the dApp store. This is a platform that we're also thinking about, creating a marketplace where end users have the ability to search for different dApps that they might encounter during their user journey, and also provide that platform the exposure to the developers providing or developing these apps for these end users. So it's essentially a marketplace if you think about it. Of course, there's going to be a revenue-based model for developers. Those details are soon to be hashed, but this is a really exciting thing that we're also thinking about and looking into for the coming future. Cool. So I don't have a live demo, but I do want to walk through the very specific steps that you would take to create a smart contract based on one of our EVM extension modules that we already have online. So everything else was more of the theoretical and conceptual part of the presentation. Kind of want to walk you through these steps just so that you can see how easy it is. And also bear with me, my engineering team is still in Berlin right now, or rather in Prague. So they're not here, but if you have any specific technical questions, let's talk after, and then let's see how we can figure it out together. And if not, I can always toss the question to my team, and they'll get back to you promptly, and I can even connect you with the team. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy a contract called the simple stake. You'll see online in our documents that our core engineering team already provided this very simple smart contract online for you so that you can try it out and see how easy it is to run a smart contract using this staking EVM extension. So with this module that we're about to see, we're going to be able to stake tokens and personalize that experience. So for example, you want to stake with your favorite validator, or maybe you want to withdraw staking rewards directly from our dashboard. And the steps that we have to take are very simple. First one would be we need to approve. Then we need to compile a contract. Then we'd have to connect to testnet, of course, fund the accounts with some TEVMOS, deploy the contract, and just interact with it. It's really that simple. Even I can do it, and I'm not even a developer. So with approvals, here, this works if you want a smart contract to basically manage your funds for you or stake your tokens according to whatever preferences that you have here. Of course, these authorizations and these approvals are very necessary because you want to authorize a smart contract to do this for you on your behalf. And there's also like specific functions that basically approves the following like methods like staking rewards and also withdrawing staking rewards. Or sorry, staking tokens, sorry, and withdrawing staking rewards. Then after, it's just a matter of just going for the next steps. You'd have to compile the contract on Remix. Then you have to connect to testnet, so testnet EVMOS. You have to fund yourself, fund your account with TEVMOS. Of course, you can do this with Faucet, as I'm sure you know. There's also different methods as well. Then you just deploy the contract after putting in a few configurations. And then you'll see that there's contract information coming up about your transaction hash that you can also monitor in the MetaMask extension or even on Block Explorer. It's all pretty like self-explanatory information there. And then upon successful deployment execution, you'll see all the methods that were part of the contract. And then after, it's literally just a matter of interacting with your contract based on whatever use case that you want to fulfill for yourself. You could stake some tokens, you could get a list of validators, you could stake your tokens with validators with specific preferences. It's really up to you. And that's the whole beauty of these EVM extensions, right? A lot more personalization and also in a more scalable way. These are also the list of EVM extensions that you'll see in our module online. I actually should provide like a QR code. I completely forgot about that. And I know I just talked about the staking module, but also there's an IBC transfer module. So there's the different transactions that you can perform. And as you know, every transaction, there's an event, and one of them is IBC transfer. Cool. So that's basically it for my presentation. I basically just wanted to make an emphasis of like how exciting EVM extensions are for our team right now. We're really tapping into fixing a lot of critical issues that exist in the Web3 space for not just developers and for not just end user, but for both parties, right? Making it scalable and making it really easy to onboard to as many chains as possible without the overhead of like not having that ability to knowledge transfer. Cool. So I'll be here throughout the whole day. Please feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, thank you for your time.